Alison Chen, naturopathic doctor and co-founder of the NDDC, the free collaborative blog dedicated to the success of naturopaths around the globe. I'm here with Dr. Adam Friedman, naturopathic doctor, neurocranial restructuring practitioner, personal trainer with a master's degree in exercise physiology, and certified massage therapist. He received his doctorate of naturopathic medicine from Bastyr University in 2009 and was a previous staff physician for NDI, Natural Doctors International. Welcome.
Thank you.
Now, you've traveled all around the world, practicing naturopathic medicine in places like Thailand, Maldives, Nicaragua. Tell us where you're currently traveling.
I'm in Hong Kong. I came here 6 months ago, and I'm really enjoying the change. It's a very fast-paced, wildly different environment from Nicaragua, where I was for 2 years prior to coming. And the only commonality I can say is that they're both islands. That's about it. Other ends of the spectrum.
All right. So tell us a little bit of your experience working internationally.
Okay. Well, so even before I got out of med school, I did quite a bit of traveling to other areas, either to do volunteer work, like I did a medical mission in Nicaragua with NDI before graduating. I took lots of electives, traveling to places like Italy, Papua New Guinea, up and down the Oregon coast for classes, doing herbology courses, studying botanical medicines, minor surgery, gynecology type rotations. So I would encourage people, if they have an interest in becoming a traveling ND and are still in school, to take advantage of all those electives where you get to go out and see other areas of the country or world. So when I graduated, I ultimately flew off to Thailand first. I'd been to Thailand on a couple of spring breaks while in medical school and just fell in love with it and knew that I wanted to go back. And so before I left, I sent out a half a dozen emails with my CV to various places in Thailand. And so before I even landed, I had a few interviews lined up. And then, one thing leads to another, and we can get into that. But Thailand is where I went first, and it was a jumping off point. And I was fortunate to be able to continue to work and travel since then.
Right. And you went off to the Maldives as well, correct? From Thailand?
So while in Thailand, so I was basically a spa doctor. Mm-hmm. And so I found some very ritzy resorts that have really nice spas. Mm-hmm. And in my CV, I talked up my experience, either personal training or massage or whatever, and sent them a bio with a menu of services that I could provide. And so I would suggest to NDs looking to do that, don't just be an ND, do other stuff too.
Right.
Easy things would be yoga, get your 200-hour yoga teacher cert, personal trainer. If you do acupuncture, fantastic. Right. If you've got something else you can offer, because in much of the world, nobody knows what an ND actually does, not especially our type of naturopathic medicine.
Right.
Every day when I see a patient, I have to explain that, I'm a doctor. I have a doctorate in naturopathic medicine. It's not a bachelor's degree from UK or Australia, which is what they are in this part of the world. So when people hear a naturopath, they just don't truly get what we do. So the other thing I would say is have a web presence, have a decent website so that on all information that goes out to them, they can see what it is you actually do. And so in your website, you need to talk about your education and the clinical training and all those other things.
That was something really valuable that I found when I was heading off to Thailand that you gave me, just to list all the different things, because it's not present in anywhere else in the world. You have no idea what that means to be a naturopathic doctor.
Right, exactly. So without having to toot your own horn all the time, if you can just give them a resource that they can go to and find out for themselves, then they think that they found you, as opposed to you having to sell yourself. That's also a plus.
Right.
So in this bio of mine, I talked about being a personal trainer, but I didn't call it personal training. I called it metabolic conditioning, and you charge twice as much money. Or you offer deep tissue massage, but you don't call it that. You call it focused therapeutic bodywork, and you charge twice as much. And depending on the way you work it out with the spa director is how you get paid, and we can talk about that too. And I did nutritional counseling, and I did couples counseling, or just general counseling. I did a lot of short-term, goal-oriented stuff. I'm not interested in past life analysis or how your mother mistreated you. I'm focused on people who, and the type of people that I saw are people with a tremendous amount of disposable income, and they were in transition. A lot of women in their late 40s, early 50s, maybe they're divorced, widowed, empty nesters. They have unlimited funds and unlimited options, and they have no idea where to take their first step. So I would help them just take that first step. So that was something that I offered as well, and that went over well. I would give free teaser lectures, excuse me, about the things that I offer. Like I would do something simple, like a wellness wheel, where you print out a sheet of paper with a wellness wheel with all the different variables, and you say, fill this out, and I gab on for 15, 20 minutes, and at the end they look at their wheel and they say, oh, I'm missing X. And I say, I can provide X, come see me.
Right.
Or I would talk about the paleo diet and lifestyle, which is something that I'm a proponent of. And people are fascinated with food and nutrition these days because there's just so much misinformation. So any lecture you can give about food, nutrition, what they should eat, what they shouldn't, that goes a long way to getting you in the door to these places. So while I was in Thailand, I was at a place called the Six Senses Sanctuary, which is this fantastic wellness retreat that has since closed because it was too big and poorly marketed. But from there, I did well enough that they sent my CV to the main office in Bangkok. This was in Phuket. And in Bangkok, they sent out CVs to all of the other Six Senses around the globe. And a place in Maldives called me and asked me if I would be willing to come and do a month trial. And I said, yeah, of course.
Of course, paradise.
It was. Maldives is the most beautiful place I've been. And I spent time in Bali as well. And Bali to me was just spectacular. But
Yeah.
Maldives is one of those places that it goes above and beyond the postcards. It's almost like standing at the edge of the Grand Canyon and thinking, oh, this can't be real.
Yeah.
Kind of like that.
I can only imagine. I didn't make it to the Maldives, but it's on my bucket list.
I highly recommend it. It's hard to get to because it's so expensive to get there. And there's nothing to do except be at a resort because it's just a series of islands. And with the exception of the capital, Male, which is a really odd place, there isn't all that much to do. It's a great place to go and relax. I saw a lot of honeymooners, and you should offer packages,
Right.
discounts and all those things, and you'll be asked to do that as well. So be prepared to wear many hats.
Right.
And so, for example, I wore 3 hats in Maldives. One was the practitioner. They called me a visiting practitioner. So I wore that hat in the spa. And then I was the resort doctor. So if somebody had, if they ate bad shellfish or unremittent headaches, or if somebody should drop dead of a heart attack on the volleyball court, they call me and I would go and deal with it.
Right.
But the other thing I did was, and this is true wherever I go, I would treat the staff 1 day a week for free. I would just give that back. And so, Maldives is Sri Lankans, Maldivians, Southern Indians who are overworked, and they've got the same musculoskeletal stuff that everybody else in the world has. And so I would just, say, I can see 12 people today, and 12 people would sign up, and I would deal with them as necessary. Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons that I didn't stay in Thailand longer is I was just too lazy to learn Thai. I'm fluent in Spanish, so all of Latin America is open to me, and I loved Nicaragua so much, and NDI was the thing that I wanted to do more than anything, which is how I ended up going back and spending 2 years there. Thailand and Maldives is seasonal, and if you didn't earn enough during the high season, or you came late, which is another thing we should talk about, the timing of when to go, you'll struggle. So I stayed for one full high season, and then in March, April, there's nothing to do, and they don't really want you because you're costing them money if you're there not treating people every day. So I got in contact with Dr. Tabitha Parker at NDI, and said, hey, what's going on there? And she says, we need you, come down. And I said, okay, I'm on my way.
Amazing.
Yeah, so I went back, and shortly after I arrived, she said, listen, I need you to be me. I'm going back to the States to be a professor at a new naturopathic school. So I went from just being a staff physician in the clinic to sort of being the country director, making sure the electricity was paid and dealing with all the emails and internet stuff. And
So even bigger.
yeah, it was way more than I was able to do. I mean, I was very honored to be asked and incredibly grateful for the opportunity. But I don't want to be a country director. I don't want to manage people. I did that once, and that's not my thing. I just want to be I want to be the talent. I just want to come in and do my thing and take a bow and walk out and have the rest of the day to do my own thing.
Yeah.
And Ometepe, the island where NDI is located, it's a challenging place. It requires a lot of introspection, and you're seeing incredibly profound poverty and ignorance, and in the truest sense of the word, they just don't have the information available to them, and malnutrition and the global health inequalities are palpable. You can't help but notice it every day, and it can really drain you. So there's a certain fortitude I recommend you have if you decide to go back or go to Nicaragua and get involved with NDI. On the other hand, I recommend everybody get involved with NDI because it is what our profession is at its core. I mean, really pared down, it's your hands and your head and whatever's in the dispensary, which is donated. It's an incredible experience, and I could do an entire talk on just that, and I do on occasion.
And so NDI is available to students as well as people in their internship year, their fourth year, that they can do 10-day externships as well as longer periods of seeing patients, correct?
That's correct. So the Brigade, as we call it, is 10 days, incredibly intense. You treat patients for 4 full days in the clinic. You stay with Nicaraguan families. You eat their food. You learn about their culture. You try to speak their language. And you get a real sense of what it means to live in that type of rural, uneducated, poor environment. At the same time, you learn about global health inequality, globalization, neoliberalism. It's really intense. So during the day, you're seeing patients or doing a cultural activity, excuse me, and in the evening, it's classes about...
Right, you get involved with the community.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So that's something that anybody can do.
Right.
And there are different brigades. I think we offer like 6 to 8 brigades a year.
Different times of the year.
Yeah,
And
and
there's
that's
fundraising as well, correct?
right.
For the
Fundraising you
schools.
can do. You're required to bring down a 50-pound piece of luggage with donations in it.
Right.
So it's supplements, vitamins, minerals, um, speculum,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. So that's the initial 10-day brigade that everybody is required to do. If you're interested in doing like an internship after, you could stay and do a month or 2 or 3 months. There is the 1 year. Uh, it's called no, you can't call it a residency anymore. I think they call it an internship, but it's basically um, you're there for a year. You are in the clinic full time. You're seeing patients every day. You're getting involved with the local community, the local doctors and nurses. You give lectures. You teach them about things that they would not be exposed to otherwise. It's fantastic. Or
Right.
you could just go down and work there full time. The current doctor, his name is Dr. Farr. He's originally from Oregon, and he took his wife and 2 kids down, and they've been there. He just finished his first year, and he's staying. They've decided to stay
Oh,
and make
great.
a go of it. Yeah. So, there are many different levels you can get involved with NDI,
Right. And
and
I'll put the links below this video so that people can look at the website and see what kind of different opportunities are possible for their schools and timing wise as well.
great,
Yeah.
great.
And so flipping back to your experiences in Thailand and Maldives, you said something about timing. So,
Yeah.
as a new grad, you can start to apply to these jobs. When would you say, or even as a intern, when would you say is the best time to start really reaching out?
You need to do it at least 6 months before the high season. High season starts mid-November
Mm-hmm.
and runs through the middle of March. There's another blip uh, at Easter where people travel during that time as well. But most spas that have this, I guess it's a service. Not every place has a a a program where they bring in visiting practitioners, and there's a handful that will do it.
Mm-hmm.
And you have that roster of the places that bring in, it's a rotation where they bring in healers of all types. So it's going to be licensed naturopathic physicians, and then it's going to be past life analysis readers and chakra balancers and crystal manifestors and all those other woo-woo things that we are exposed to and some of us don't believe in. But they run the gamut, and some people they're looking for enlightenment in a bottle that they can take home with them from vacation, and
Right.
so they offer those.
Right.
So you'll be sitting at dinner with practitioners who do things you just can't even believe people would pay money for. But then you also get to meet really fantastic practitioners from all over the world. I've met some
Yeah.
really wonderful people while doing this, and I feel very fortunate to have met some really influential people in my path. So I'm sort of paying it forward. There's a guy, Dr. Chet Collins, who's a chiropractor from Northern California. He was doing this about a year ahead of me, and he was invaluable to the to avoiding the missteps of how to do it, and he was really invaluable for me. So I'm paying it forward to you
Great.
and all of
Perfect.
you that are watching.
Everyone watching. So
So
definitely before 6 months before November, you would say is minimum to start reaching out.
yeah, yeah, and again, you need to imagine like you're trying to apply for a cruise ship position where you have to do 7 different things
Mm-hmm.
so that they can utilize you.
Right.
You can't just be so focused on your one thing that you just show up when somebody books and that's it. You've got to schmooze.
Yeah.
You've got to You've got to be willing to talk, give free teaser lectures. I did that. I did that twice a week in Maldives and Thailand as well, where it would be a 20-minute lecture on wellness or diet or whatever.
Yeah.
And then an additional night out, they would have a champagne cocktail hour where you'd have to show up and they would put you in this skirt, and it literally was a skirt.
Okay.
Um, and you get pimped out, and it's fine. It's fun. You get to meet really amazing people from all over the world. I mean, lots of old money from Europe who can't afford their own island would go to Maldives and go to the Suniva Fushi or Six Senses Lamu.
Right.
And it was a lot of fun. I met some amazing people. It's a it's a very transient experience because everybody's there for 10 days tops, maybe 2 weeks. There are those uber wealthy that own their own little condo there or villa on the island, and they'll come down for a month or two.
Right.
But for the most part, and it affects your treatment strategy.
I found that very much so. 'Cause
You need to
I would
be
only
able
see them
to.
once or twice a week.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You need to be able to compartmentalize your treatment and give them something when they leave, even if it's just your email address and the promise of a follow-up
Yeah.
Skype visit or something like that after they get home. And you need to be able to have a Skype method of payment,
Right.
PayPal with a Skype follow-up. Once I see them, I get my hands on them, I'm fine doing a Skype follow-up, whether it's counseling or nutritional information or designing another exercise program. That's fine, and they appreciate it. Something else I would recommend is if you're doing something with them that they would take home with them, video it as much as you can. Like I would video me doing a personal training session so that they could take it home with them, and they always have it. I've since started posting things on YouTube where it's a general exercise program that I could give to most people, and that's an easy thing. The other thing is time management. You want to start reducing the time that you're spending after they leave you so that you're not spending 90 minutes with them after you've just spent 90 minutes with them.
Yeah. Creating those treatment protocols and tweaking them. I found the videos were very, very helpful, especially for exercise prescriptions and knowing how to do proper posture and being safe.
Right.
Because a lot of the time they'll take another 2 weeks to maybe travel, or the jet lag, they won't look at their prescription until a little bit later once they get home, and by that point they've totally forgotten everything you said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you could do an audio, an MP3, a progressive muscle relaxation, biofeedback type stuff, or there's lots of different ways to do it after they've left. But you just have to recognize that follow-up visits aren't happening in person.
Right. And so the difference between working in a licensed and unlicensed country, what are they, and how do you get around working as an MD?
In Nicaragua, you go through the government. It's all legit. And it's lots of preparation and paperwork, and NDI handles all that. You have to do some silly things before you go in order to get it. Like you have to have your resume certified by an attorney, which doesn't make any sense to us in North America, but that's what they want, so that's what we do.
Okay.
And they change the rules every other month. It's ridiculous. There's an office manager at NDI whose really full-time job is to deal with all that garbage, and she does a fantastic job. So that's Nicaragua. It's handled, but
so NDI will kind of step you through the process.
They take it all. They do everything. It's incredibly easy from that perspective. In regards to the rest of the world, they don't care. Nobody cares. In Hong Kong, it's different, and I can talk about that. But in Thailand and Maldives, the resorts are their own bubble. It's kind of like a sweatshop in Nicaragua, where you're essentially in a different country within that country.
Right.
Because in Maldives, alcohol is illegal. It's a Muslim country.
Right.
And so nobody is allowed to drink except at the resort where everybody drinks.
So only on the premises.
Exactly. And so there's a certain protection that you get in the resorts. Now, that being said, in Thailand, you need to be careful because if you go and do a small day spa, the government will come and crack down. And there's a famous story about down in Phuket where people, NDs, massage therapists, acupuncturists, all those other, Reiki practitioners, whatever, they were posting in yoga studios all around Phuket with their flyer and the phone number tab that you can pull, and the Thai police got wind of it that these people were practicing illegally, and they were, and there was a raid, and there were massage therapists jumping out windows trying to get away from the cops. It was insane.
Wow. I actually had something similar in Thailand where a practitioner was posting things on Facebook, come see me in the clinic or wherever. And when she was going through the airport, they stopped her and pulled up the Facebook messages and
No kidding.
charged her. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So you definitely have to be careful what you're
Yeah.
posting if you're not doing it by the books.
Yeah, it happens to musicians too. I had a musician friend who, the karaoke scene went dead because the Thai police came in saying, "You're working as a musician in Thailand during karaoke night."
That's not right.
It's not right. It's true, but it's not right.
And so, what about work visas? How
Oh,
hard is it to
okay.
get one? And do you
So
recommend doing it that way?
In Maldives, they do that for you. I had a 3-month work visa, and on day 90 you have to leave the country because I think they charge $1,500 US for every day you overstay your visa. And that's because they know they've got you, and everybody there has money because you've got to fly to get to Maldives and fly to any island you're going to.
So if you don't have a plane ticket, you're screwed.
Right. Well, you work that out with the spa before you leave your home because they know that too. Thailand is different. Thailand is, the larger the resort, the more autonomy they have, the more protected they are, and the less the local police intervene. So yes, you're going to have to leave. You got to cross over the border, go up to the Golden Triangle if you're in Chiang Mai, or go to Kuala Lumpur for a day, and you can get your visa stamped. And then you just have to be creative with, what you say you're doing when you come back. You don't say you're working; you just say you're visiting, or something like that. But again, you got to be careful, and I wouldn't go around shouting to the rooftops that you're working in Thailand if you don't have the paperwork. Now you can do it. You can go legit and work that out. It's a hassle, and I fortunately didn't have to do it. And I was lucky when I did work at small day spas. I did that for a bit. Had a wonderful experience, but it's a gamble.
And one of the resorts that I had a position at, they offered to pay half of the working visa.
Okay.
And I would pay the other half. So you can, they sometimes offer it, but you can sometimes split it as well. So that's one way to get your working visa. And what would you expect to be a reasonable salary while you're working?
Yeah. Okay. Oh, so there's one other very important thing I want to talk about working as a naturopath in places like Thailand, especially in my experience. They hire naturopaths from UK and Australia, and they end up working hourly, and you are a glorified concierge, meaning anybody who walks in to the spa, you will see. And your job is to find another practitioner, massage therapist, Reiki person, whatever it is,
Right.
and you shuffle them in that direction.
Oh, so you're not actually seeing anyone?
Not really,
In
no.
some instances, okay.
Correct. And I've got a buddy who sort of got pigeonholed into that, and did not work well for him. He's since gotten out of that and is much happier, I believe, last time I talked to him. But you need to go as a visiting practitioner or a visiting consultant, sometimes they call it, and you need to be pompous. You know, you have to have a certain air about you. They call you doctor. You are somebody that needs to be scheduled with, and you charge more money than anybody else. And you work it out with them where they take half. That's typical. There was one place where I was where it was a 60-40 split, but they paid for my transportation to and from. And then you've got to do the math. You know, how busy do you think you're going to be? I ended up losing money because I made a lot more money at the spa, and so they took a bigger cut because they paid for my flight, which I made, you know, fourfold in the long run that I was there. So just be aware of that when you do it. I don't know where you're going that's going to be offered. I think places, as they become more established and this becomes a bigger thing and more visiting practitioners are sending their CVs, they'll have more to choose from. So I guess the first thing I would say is be good. You know, be confident at the very least in your abilities, so that when you go there you have a certain air about you that they would be willing to bring you back. Or and here's the other really important thing. You need to brown nose the spa receptionist.
Always the receptionist.
They will make or break you. So at the very least, you need to give them a complimentary treatment so that they know what you do.
Right.
If while you're working on them, you should drop the hint that you'll give them 10% of every booking under the table, that goes on. I didn't have to do that, but it happens. And I recommend, especially at the beginning, that you consider it. Because you could be, it takes a second for somebody to walk in, see your bio sitting on the receptionist desk, and they say, oh, how about this one? For that spa receptionist to say, no, I think you should go to this person. And that's it, it's done, it's over. So, you know, you've really got to...
notice, you know, everyone's trying to make as much as they can, and you're charging 3-4 times what they are, they're not going to be too happy unless... I charged twice as much, like for massage. You know, if you're doing something that nobody else is doing, then that's fine. The other thing to consider is who else is going to be there. I've run into problems. I mean, I liked the guy. It was Dr. Collins, but we ended up being paired up. You know, we were at the same place at the same time, and we do the same kind of stuff. You know, we were stealing each other's guests. And, you know, if that's your living, it becomes an issue because, you know, you're taking money out of each other's mouths. So be aware of who else is going to be there. Usually the spa director who organizes who's coming and when will be savvy to that. But you've also got to be aware. Right. So again, back to just versus hourly rates versus salary rates. You said about 50-50 you would take home. What would be an average you would charge for a massage or acupuncture session?
I think I was charging for a 90-minute treatment, whatever it was $395 US. And then I would get half that.
Right. And these are 5-star resorts. These are
yeah, this is really top of the line.
Right.
So you need to gauge according to, so go to the website, look at what the other practitioners have successfully charged, and be in that ballpark, but slightly above. You know. Also, yeah, you know, if you're fresh out of school and you've been an ND for 6 months, not 6 years, you You know, don't undersell your services. But if there's somebody there who's been doing this for 20 years and they won't see people unless they're charging the most, um, be demure about it. Defer to their experience. But understand that you've got to live after you're no longer there. You know, so in Maldives, it was a 3-month work visa, and then I had to leave the country for a month. So I had to go back to Thailand and just live off of what I earned in Maldives.
Right.
It was lovely. It really is a lifestyle, less a career.
Right.
It was a fantastic experience, and I'm not opposed to doing it again. I happen to really enjoy what I'm doing currently, but I'm not opposed to doing this again if I'm unattached, don't have a house, a car, a mortgage, a dog, whatever.
Right.
It's a great way to see the world, see new people, new experiences, all that stuff.
I agree. And you mentioned when going to Nicaragua about donations for supplements and herbs and things like that. What about traveling to these other locations? What kind of tools are you bringing with you?
Yeah, I had my head in my hands, so that was it. If I do it again, I will have a better relationship with nutraceutical companies and do drop shipments. Meaning, if there's something that somebody needs and they can't get it where I am, I can have it delivered to their home back in UK or Australia.
Right.
And
through the companies themselves or through a dispensary type fulfillment center?
well, you know, it depends on the company. You know, some will go directly through me, and I just say this is the address to send it to. Others are a dispensary arrangement, but it really depends on where you are and what access you have. You know, as an ND, we have access to some really high quality stuff. So I'm a real supplement snob, and I'm not going to recommend somebody go down to the GNC or whatever it is. I'm going to say, you know, get Thorn or Vital Nutrients or, you know, whatever it is. And then I would just say, listen, I can order this for you and have it shipped, and, you know, I charge a certain amount for my time and all that.
So I found that quite challenging myself because I was comfortable and familiar with the North American brands, but when you're working across the world, they don't necessarily have those brands, and even where the patients are from, they don't have access to those brands. So what I did was made Amazon affiliate links so
Okay.
that they could order it through Amazon, and it would be sometimes twice as expensive, but they would deliver it to their homes, and then I would get a very, very small percentage of the sale, which
Right.
I, disclosed to them as well. But it also gave them an idea of what to look for if they went home and wanted to go check their health food stores and see if there's something comparable. So that's kind of the direction I went because I hit the same challenges
Mm-hmm.
not having my supplements at hand or just telling them to go down the street and get, pick up this and that.
Yeah, it's difficult, and you know, that's a really unique environment where you've got them for such a short period of time. You know, the difference between that and, say, working in Nicaragua is they can do those changes that you suggest. You know, if you say you need to start eating organic, they can do that, and they can find the European equivalent to a CSA box. Nicaragua, no, not so much. They make $3 a day, and it's beans and rice 3 times a day.
Right.
You have to be much more creative. Although I would suggest being creative wherever you are, because you're really limited in what equipment you have. I did a lot of stuff outside as much as I could, especially with the exercise. And so I would create these jungle workouts and market it that way, you know. And that's another selling point for you. It seems like you're whoring yourself, and I felt like the spa director was my pimp. But there's a certain amount of schmoozing that you've got to do in order to get work. So don't be opposed to that sort of thing.
I hear you. So we talked about some of the patient follow-ups and recommending to do a Skype follow-up using PayPal, and I have a couple articles on and ebooks on setting up payment processing, email marketing, that kind of stuff, which is a really good and reliable way to follow up with people who are living around the world. And if you're not in one stable place, it's going to have to be through internet to access your patients. And setting up a PayPal, transfer or receipt is really easy, and we can take you through those steps as well on the site. What are 3 of your biggest mistakes or learning curves that you had while starting out of your ND career?
Well, the first one I had was the fear of leaving academia. And so after I graduated from Bastyr, I immediately enrolled at NCNM to become a chiropractor because I thought, I've got great hands and I want to make them better. And after about 6 months, I realized, oh God, I'm repeating medical school. So I think the first thing I would say is have the confidence to actually leave school and go out and start.
Right.
I was so glad that I ultimately did because it's in a wildly different environment that you can't really understand until you actually do it. So that's number 1 was get out as quickly as you can.
Okay.
Number 2 was the prep that I didn't know about before I left the US to go and try and do these things. In terms of knowing what a CV was, in North America, well, in America we don't say CV, we say resume.
Right.
So, and I didn't realize that there was a difference between a resume, a CV, and a bio. And so those things, you need to polish your 30-second elevator spiel when you actually get a Skype interview.
Right.
You need to understand that they don't care about you unless you're making them money.
Right.
So every conversation needs to lean towards, and this is how I'm going to help your spa to become more successful. It always has to come down to that because you could be the nicest person in the world, and I am. But if you're not making them money, they don't need you. They don't. So that's important. Understand that money is ultimately what is going to get you into that environment. And
So you recommended having your resume, having a photo as well of yourself to send?
I put a photo on my resume, bio, my CV and bio when I send it out.
Right.
They want to see what they're getting.
Right. And then also maybe having a website with a list of all your different services that you offer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And even in the 4 years since I started doing this, everybody has a web presence. And so, whether you're going to you're going to pay somebody $100 a year to maintain your website, or you're going to do it yourself with one of these simple do-it-yourself kind of things, which is what I did, and it's fine.
Yeah.
If you're at all tech savvy, you can absolutely maintain your website on your own without paying anybody else. So that's important, those things.
And we've created a whole, start a naturopathic blog blueprint for people to download. So it's a free ebook, and you're able to use that to start your own website.
Great. I think the third thing is be okay with the downtime. Even in paradise, you can get bored. And at the end of the 3rd month in Maldives, even though my office was a hammock on a deserted beach, you can get bored and you get island fever.
Right.
It happened in Nicaragua. It happened in Thailand. You gotta be able to be okay with the downtime because there's a lot of downtime.
Your recommendation to me was bring a lot of ebooks.
Yes.
Kindle books. And just to conclude the interview, what's one main takeaway for new grads or NDs who want to start traveling while they work?
So I'm going to qualify that to what your personal life is like. You know, are you in a relationship? Do you have other creatures depending on you? If not, do it. Absolutely. Take a year or 2 or 5. Especially if you're an American who tends not to travel so much, you really need to see the rest of the world. If you are attached, there are ways to do it. It's more complicated, and there's a tremendous degree of scaling that has to be done in order for you to do it. Because you've got to, if your spouse, your partner, has a marketable career, great, incorporate that as best you can.
Right.
But, how successful you are if you've got a wife and kids or a husband and kids, it's going to require a degree of creativity that I didn't need. So I can't really answer that. Now, I did know a guy who brought his wife along, but she had a skill. She was actually she was in pest control, natural pest control. So when he would go to a resort, she would tag along and show them how to get rid of mosquitoes
Right.
without spraying pesticides, which was an issue. It was an actual issue where I was. And every day at 6 o'clock, I would jump into the ocean and stay there for about 40 minutes as this fog drifted over the entire island. It was awful.
I
It was
had
just
that
awful.
too where I was in Thailand. They fumigated the whole place once a week, and it was toxic. It was
It's
awful.
terrible. Yeah. So, that is something you will learn. They have very different standards of hygiene and what is environmentally friendly, and it's just one of those things. It's not all roses. It really isn't.
Right. And you have to be careful, be smart, safe
Yes,
while you're traveling.
exactly.
It's not even just the locals, but also other travelers and drunken idiots who get
Yeah,
you in trouble.
I would say Asia is a safer environment in general than, say, Latin America
Yeah.
or Africa. But yeah, you got to be careful wherever you are.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Friedman.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
It's been a pleasure to have you on. And do you have any last comments or things to
Um,
add?
I would also say that um, I get bored easy, and all the different places that I've been were all wildly different.
Mm.
Like here in Hong Kong, it's a regular clinic. I mean, it's a huge clinic with 15 other practitioners, and we have access to a huge, wonderful dispensary with
Really great products I noticed when I went there.
and the best laboratory testing in the world. We ship stuff to the U.S. and to Australia.
Wow.
It's a real change from Nicaragua, where you don't trust the labs, and there aren't very many to do anyways. But it's really opened up my practice quite a bit, and I'm really enjoying it. The pollution and the expense will ultimately drive me out of here, but in the meantime, I am really happy where I am and loving practicing to a much fuller extent than in Maldives or Thailand.
Right,
It's much different. Now, there are limitations here as well, because naturopaths aren't even registered. They don't recognize us. I can barely do hands-on stuff, and even then it's iffy as to what I say I'm doing. I can't prescribe. I've got to go through a medical doctor. Now, everywhere you go, there are going to be limitations and challenges. But not having to fill out endless paperwork, ICD-9 codes, who knows what that is at this point? I haven't filled that out since ever. And in Nicaragua, patient charting notes are a line. That's all you get. Here, it's whatever you want them to be. I manipulated an FOC, ROC handout from medical school that nobody cares whether I fill it out or not. Nobody's overseeing me. If I'm sharing a patient with another practitioner here, I might print it out and give it her. But even then, the note taking abilities that I have from school so far exceed what I actually do on a daily basis. I can't even begin to tell you. It's lovely.
Right. And just to get you up into the loop, it's ICD-10 codes now, so that's how
See,
long it's been.
see, that's how out of touch I am.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Friedman, to share your experiences. I mean, how it's not every day that you find an ND that's so worldly traveled and has so many experiences to share with us. So thank you so much. All your contact information will be linked below this interview and will be also available through www.thenddc.com. So thank you so much, and can't wait to see where you're going to be traveling next.
Me either. Thanks. It was a pleasure.